Is good for you sisters, or I don't know how you guys are going to read or write. It's up to you, but I'm just asking. Do you want to read? وعن أبي محذورة رضي الله عنه. بسم الله.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى وعن أبي محذورة رضي الله عنه.
It's hadith number 145 and it's on the top here.
وعن أبي محذورة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي علمه الأذان صلى الله عليه وسلم فيه ترجيع أخرجه مسلم ولكن
فذكر فيه الترجيع
أخرجه مسلم
No, not this one. We finished this. Sorry. It's 147. Yeah. وعن أبي محذورة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. No. 140.
149, sorry,
148. Sorry, 148.
وعن أبي محذورة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أعجبه صوته فعلمه الأذان رواه ابن خزيمة.
بسم الله. Yeah.
Narrated Abu Mahdura رضي الله عنه. The Prophet ﷺ liked his voice, so he taught him the adhan, the call to prayer, reported by Ibn Khuzaymah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. This narrator, Abu Mahdura, is not a very famous companion, so that's why I like to talk a little bit about any names of a companion that is not known. And here there is a special quality about this companion that he used to be one of the Prophet ﷺ's mu'adhin, one of the people who call adhan for the Prophet ﷺ. As I said, the Prophet ﷺ had 6 famous mu'adhineen, 6 famous people who called adhan in his time, like Bilal ibn Maktoum, and one of them Abu Mahdura radiallahu anhu wa arda. Abu Mahdura al-Jumahi, Mu'addin al-Masjid al-Haram, the Mu'addin of Masjid Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ companions. His name Aus ibn Mu'ayyir ibn Lawdhan ibn Rabi'at ibn Sa'd ibn Jumah. Qil, it was also said his name not Aus, his name Samir, Salman, Samura. And we talked about this before. And the reason for this, because the kunya, his nickname, that's what he's known with, Abu Mahdura. So people don't really remember the name because they have the nickname for the person. He narrated from his son Abdul Malik and also narrated from his wife and Al-Aswad ibn Yazid, which is one of the great, حدث عنه, narrated from him. So people, like, he is the teacher, so people narrated a hadith from him. His son Abdul Malik, his wife narrated hadith from him. Al-Aswad ibn Yazid, he's a great student of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, وابن أبي مليكة وآخرون. كان من عند الناس صوتا. He used to have a very beautiful voice, but extremely loud. Like extremely loud, and that's not a good not usually to find somebody whose voice is so loud, but also his voice is good. Okay? Al-ulama rahimahumullah mentioned the story of his Islam. And it's a quite interesting story. Even some ulama said this is the story of the one who was mocking Islam and ended up a Muslim. He was mocking Islam and ended up Muslim. How's that? Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah reported, and others, عن أبي محذورة رضي الله عنه, that النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, when he came back from the battle of Hunayn, Abu Mahdura said, I went to look at him and his companion. You know, in Hunayn, the Prophet ﷺ was, his army was, he took a hit, in the battle. And they barely recovered. So when they came back, Abu Mahdura was not a Muslim at that time. And kind of happy hearing those people non-Muslim about what happened to the Prophet ﷺ. قال فخرجت عشرة. We were 10. All of them went out to look at Muhammad ﷺ and his people coming back after that battle. فسمعناهم يؤذنون. We heard them calling adhan for salah. We start laughing at them and laughing at this adhan that they call. What they say? Allah Akbar. We were watching them and they calling adhan and we were laughing at them. فقمنا نؤذن نستهزئ بهم. So we start, us, gather together and said, let's say the adhan too. So they start saying adhan and mocking the adhan. Who heard them? The Prophet ﷺ heard them making adhan and mocking the adhan, making fun of the adhan. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam came and he said to them, I heard you calling adhan, and there is one of you, his voice was so good. Which one of you? Which one of you, the one who really had a beautiful voice? He said, you go ahead and call adhan in front of me. فَأَذَّنُوا رَجُلًا رَجُلًا. They start calling adhan one after another until Abu Mahdura's turn came. And when he heard, he said, yes, you the one who I loved his voice. And Abu Mahdura said, وَكُنْتُ آخِرَهُمْ. I was number 10, the last person. Then the Nabi ﷺ told him, come here, تعالى. فجلست بين يديه صلى الله عليه وسلم. I sat right at his knees in front of his hand صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, all of a sudden, he took off my turban, imamati. He took it off and he put his hand on my forehead and my hair. And he said like this, he wiped over his head and he said, Allahumma barik fih wahdihi ila al-Islam. Oh Allah, bless him and guide him to Islam. And he did this 3 times, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then he basically, one of the narration, he said to him like this, over his face, his chest, and all the way in his belly button. So he wiped like over it, and he made dua for him. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made dua for him. Abu Mahdura said, whatever hate, anger, resistance I had in my heart against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Islam went away after this. And Allah opened my heart for Islam in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, اذهب فأذن عند البيت الحرام. Then the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, now you go call adhan in al-Kaaba. Can you imagine like the sharaf, the honor he just earned in just minutes. Minutes ago he was making fun of Islam. A little while ago. And now he get the honor to give adhan in front of Muslims, in front of the world, on the top of al-Kaaba. And he was so excited. He was young too. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, كيف علمني? How? I was just calling kida, making fun. I heard some words you guys saying, and I was just repeating it. He never told us what he was saying exactly. Then he said, Ya Rasulullah, teach me. Okay? like how to call the adhan. فعلمني الأولى كما يؤذنون بها. He said, he taught me how to call adhan, and he told me in Salat al-Fajr, you add as-salatu khayrun min al-nawm. Okay? And he taught me how to call the iqamah 2 times. Like Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Okay? And there is a debate over 2 times in relation to everything in the iqamah or only to the takbir. We talked about this before, last class. This is story reported by Nasa'i rahimahullah and others. And this is what the ulama always speak about when it comes to Abi Mahdura. Safiya bint Bahra said, كانت قصة أبي محذورة طويلة ناعمة جميلة حتى بلغ من العمر عتية. His hair was soft and nice and long until he even reached like an older age. He said, and whenever he will bring his head like this up, كانت قصة رأسه تلمس الأرض. When he's sitting and he puts his head down like this, the front of his forehead, the bangs basically, will reach the ground. That's how. قال وكان شعره إلى نصف جسمه. His hair was tall to half of his body. Can you imagine? His hair was so long to the half of his body. He was asked, why you keep your hair like this? He said, I will never cut something that the Prophet ﷺ touched. La ilaha illallah. Shuf al-hub. How he changed. He said, I would not cut something that the Prophet ﷺ touched. And وَكَانَ لَا يَفْرِقُهَا. He didn't part his hair, radiallahu anhu wa arda. And he said, لَا أَحْلِقُ شَعْرِي حَتَّى أَمُوتِ. I will never shave my head until death. I want to keep it. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have touched it. وَكَانَ يَرُدُّهُ جَذَائِل. يعني he used to braid his hair, okay, in braids, because it's very long. And he used to give the adhan in Mecca. He's in charge of adhan in Mecca. And he was so particular about adhan. When Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu, he was the muaddin of Mecca during the Prophet's time. Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali. And in the time of Muawiyah, he became old, you can imagine. So Muawiyah appointed someone to call adhan. So when he called adhan, Abu Mahdura was so disappointed with this muaddin. قال فحمله ورماه في بئر زمزم. He was so frustrated with him. He carried him and he threw him in Zamzam, inside Zamzam. Get out of here. You don't know how to call adhan. أذن أمام عمر. Umar heard about him. He said, let me hear this adhan that the Nabi was like so fascinated by. قال فأذن. He called the adhan in front of Umar رضي الله عنه. قال له عمر قال أما تخشى أن ينشق مريطاؤك من شدة صوتك. Aren't you worried that مريطاؤك, المريطاء, it's the 2 big artery that on the side. He said, I'm worried that from the adhan you call, I feel like they're gonna, erupt it or something. Like, they're gonna be like cut off because how loud you call the adhan. So everybody used to hear. He called adhan until 59 Hijri. 59 Hijri. He was the one who calling adhan. That's a long time. And guess what? When he died, who became the muaddin after him? His son. And when his son died, who became the muaddin of Mecca? His son. يقول الشافعي رحمه الله, and I witnessed his grandson calling the adhan. شوف الشافعي hundreds of years later on. يعني الشافعي born 150 Hijri. So can you imagine? That basically his grandson kept carrying this honor. So فبقي الأذان until the time of Shafi rahimahullah in the children of Abi Mahdura, who were appointed by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. طيب. This hadith that he said Ibn Khuzaymah reported it. As you can see, Ibn Hajar rahimahullah made the hadith very short. He just got the point. What's the point that he want to point out from the hadith? Can anybody tell me? Yeah, mainly the beautiful voice and also loud. You remember last hadith we talked about was about what? You remember what was last hadith about? Putting your hand in your knee. So it was about how to perform the adhan. So the first group of ahadith was talking about what's the adhan, the wordings of the adhan, the wordings of the iqamah. Now he's talking about the performance, how to perform the adhan. So he said you turn left, turn right, hayya ala salah. We studied that last week. You put your hands in your ear, okay? So one of the things also in how to perform the adhan is to make it what? Loud and to beautify your voice. هذا من حسن الترتيب. This is it shows you that Ibn Hajar rahimahullah didn't just take any hadith and stick them together. He also have a logic, there's a wisdom behind the sequence of the ahadith. This hadith also reported by Darimi rahimahullah والنسائي والترمذي والبيهقي والطيالسي مطولا ومختصرا in a lengthy way like what I told you the story, or in a short version of it. طيب, and al-hadith is according to the conditions of Muslim. This hadith fits Sahih Muslim perfectly. If Muslim rahimahullah come across it, he should have put it in his Sahih according to Ibn Daqiq al-Eid and others. طيب. He mentioned in particular Rawah ibn Khuzaymah. When you look at the narration of Ibn Khuzaymah rahimahullah, I will mention it to you since Imam Ibn Hajar mentioned Ibn Khuzaymah in particular. Ibn Khuzaymah said the following, that Abu Mahdura said that the Prophet ﷺ أمر نحو من 20 رجلا فأذنوا. He ordered 20 people to call adhan, so not 10, 20. And he loved and he liked the voice and the sound of Abu Mahdura radiallahu anhu, and he taught him the adhan, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. And he taught him al-iqamah mathna, 2, also to repeat it 2 times. This is the narration of Ibn Khuzaymah rahimahullah ta'ala. What can we learn from this hadith? There is many points I want to point out from this very short hadith to discuss with you today. Number 1, it is recommended when you choose a mu'adhin, somebody to call adhan, okay, that this person has 2 qualities. His voice is clear and loud and good. His voice is good, okay? So this is 2 qualities of the mu'adhin, as in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam here chose Abu Mahdura because of this quality to call the adhan. So if we have a sheikh, mashallah, hafidh al-Quran, and we have someone, his voice is beautiful in the adhan and call the adhan clear, who called the adhan? The one who has the better voice. Not the one who memorized the Quran and the sheikh no. Okay? So that's what to determine who called the adhan. Also, there is many other evidence to support this idea. I don't know if anyone of you remember any hadith we studied before to tell you the same. Do you remember Abdullah ibn Zayd when he saw in the dream the adhan? What the Prophet ﷺ told him? He said to him, go to Bilal, tell him that what you have seen, فَإِنَّهُ أَنْدَى مِنْكَ صَوْتًا. He has a better voice than you. So that means the Nabi ﷺ chose Bilal because his voice is much better than Abdullah. Even Abdullah, the one who saw the dream, the one who cannot own it, but he still order to be allowed to do it. And أندى منك صوتا, يعني his voice is clear and much better. Also, النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم in Hadith Abi Sa'id al-Khudri said, إذا كنت في غنمك, if you are outside camping or going out with your herds, فارفع صوتك بالأذان, raise your voice with adhan. Okay, because your voice will not reach jinn or humans or trees, rocks, anything. Your voice will reach, will be a witness for you in the day of judgment. Okay, and the hadith al-Bukhari, we talked about this before. طيب, here there is an issue of talheen al-adhan, the issue of making the adhan sound so good, like singing the adhan. Is it allowed for me to sing the adhan? I don't know if you notice some people with the way they call the adhan, it sounds like music. It's a very musical, people even compete in things like that, and they have all these different ways of calling the adhan of Hijazi. There is a famous, recently a video I saw not a long time ago of my friend and brother Sheikh Yahya Ibrahim. He was visiting Turkey or something like that, and there is a mu'adhin there, and he keep telling him, okay, this is the udhan, al-fajr, madri, and he gave all these names for different ways of calling the adhan and singing it. Is that something like allowed in Islam? Is it makruh? طيب, ضابط هذه المسألة, this issue is important for two reasons. One, because we talk about that. But two, the same rule that I'm going to tell you now about the adhan apply to the Quran, to recitation of the Quran. مسألة تطريب الأذان وتلحينه, العلماء الفقهاء they call it تلحين الأذان أو تطريب الأذان, singing the adhan. It's exactly identical to the issue of singing the Quran, like purifying your voice with the Quran. Which way is better to read Quran? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, or you say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. But also there is some Qurra, I don't want to copy anyone because first of all I don't know how to do it. Two, but it sounds like, as we say in Arabic, maskhara. Is not appropriate at all. They sing the Quran, it's like, they take the exact same maqamat. إيش مقامات بالإنجليزي? That's a word? مقامات. المقامات, I don't know, anybody has studied music before? Notes. Lyrics? Not lyrics. No. Notes? The note. Where you go up and you go down, there are certain notes. The note, So there are certain standards and process that you go through, and sikala, whatever they're called. So the same exact rules that you apply to songs and operas and all this kind of thing, the same rules, they take it and they apply to the Quran. So this is the Quran. Regardless of what Arabic language says, regardless of what ahkam al-tajweed says. So Sister Hana, for example, next thing we'll have here, a council, for people to practice Qur'an. Is that how talheen al-adhan is? No. Al-Quran, so here we'll see what's the rule. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali قال, these are the rules that apply to the Quran, apply to adhan, the concept. And one of the best people that, in my opinion, approached this issue was Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. He really talked about this in a beautiful way. And he mentioned all the narrations that has to do with rejecting the concept of singing the adhan. Like Ibn Umar, a man came to him and he said, Ibn Umar, I love you for the sake of Allah. And he said, I don't. It was very in his face. He said, I don't. He said, why? He said, because you sing the adhan. تلحن في الأذان. You basically sing the adhan. And he was very adamant about it. طيب. So he bring narrations like this. Like there is so many narrations from Salaf talk about how wrong it is to start singing the adhan of the Quran even. But also there is a plenty of other narrations and evidence shows that singing the Quran and beautifying your voice with it is good. And for instance, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari said to the Prophet ﷺ, when he heard that the Prophet listening to him, what Abu Musa said? قال لو علمت أنك تسمعني, if I know that you're listening to me, لحبرته لك تحبيرا, I would have beautified my voice so much for you, like really to make you enjoy the recitation. So that means he beautifies, he goes beyond the norm, extra effort to make his voice so good, sound so nice. That's what they're singing about this, right? So here, if you look at Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, there is two sides to this issue. The first one is to sing the Quran or the adhan, or to recite it in a way that it is in the norm, which is the normal way of beautifying your voice. It is tabi'ah, it is natural, coming out natural. Okay? Some people, they have this natural way of saying things. It's not something that you adopt or a standard like notes and the note that you take like from musicians and stuff like that. No, it's just the natural way of reciting it to beautify it, with your voice. And you try to do it in the most perfect way. And this is good, recommended, and permissible. Ibn al-Qayyim said the other one is when people go out of the ordinary, leave the rules of the Arabic language. Try to make things which is semij, is something that makes no sense for somebody who knows the rules of the Arabic and how things pronounce. And it is basically comes from the same lyrics or the same notes of the music, like the way music and songs goes. And so that's what the Salaf hates. So there is a difference between when you read the Quran and you hear the recitation Tartil Quran and when you hear music and singing. Does that make sense to you guys? And sometimes it's so obvious that there is no word can express it. Okay? He said, if you understand the difference between the two, it will be easy. So you will see that none of them ever recited the Quran in the way the music or the songs that comes with music sing. He said they have more taqwa to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than this. And he said, and we know for sure that when they read the Quran, كانوا يقومون بالتحزين والتطريب. They will make it sound like, low pitch, sometimes high. Sometimes they will make it sound like, what tahzeen, like, sad. Sad is a negative word. Kind of sad a little bit, like making you feel like, move your heart, touch your heart. They will have the best of voice that they can produce. You feel the love, the shawq in the recitation. When you hear them, you feel like as if somebody like reading it from his heart, and all this comes natural. Okay? That's why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال ليس منا من لم يتغنى بالقرآن. Not among us the one who will not sing the Quran. طيب. Ibn al-Qayyim said لأنه إخبار بالواقع. That tells you how they used to read the Quran. So none of them used to read the Quran like this. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك. That's not how you read the Quran. كان لنا شيخنا الله يغفر له ويرحمه أحد المشايخ. He passed away. When he reads Quran, as if he's read a story, Dr. Seuss or something like that. Like it's like reading a story. Okay, and this is history, this sheikh. And he led Salat al-Tarawih. unforgettable incident. And he lit Salat Taraweeh, and it was Surah Yusuf. Yani it's not enough that he reading a story, it was a story. وإذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبتي. He reads exactly like as if you read the story. Exactly, it's just unbelievable. You know, يا أبانا إن ذهبنا نستبق وتركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب. It's just the way he recited is not recitation of the Quran at all. But that's how he reads. Subhanallah, rahimahullah ta'ala. Anyway, هو الشيخ عبد القادر شيبة الحمد رحمه الله. عبد القادر شيبة الحمد. Anyway, he's a great mufassir and faqih. But the way he reads the Quran is just not how the Quran should be recited. Some people just don't know. But anyway, so the point is, it is sunnah for the person to recite this way. Same thing when it comes to the adhan. Talheen, or the singing that is not allowed, that when you do it in the same exact way, it's in the notes, the musical note, or you do it and you exaggerate in the way you perform the adhan to the extent people don't understand what you're saying. Like sometimes you don't know, did he say hayya ala salah or hayya ala falah? Wallah, musical notes, all of them. طيب. And they said it's haram to make it sound like music. I'm saying this because, believe it or not, there is actually people sing the adhan with music. Allah, here in Main Center, they used to call the adhan with music. In this place, they had a music background when the adhan is called. And he said, when I came here and I felt this, I said, you can't do it. So you will be surprised. Allah, that's what he told me. And I heard it several times, actually, not even one time, that he used to say how bad things it used to be in the late 70s and late 70s. Anyway, and ignorant, how people were so ignorant of the deen at that time. What I hear, the main thing here is the way the music is done with music is haram. But what if, you make mistakes in the adhan, and these mistakes linguistically will change the meaning of the adhan? Al-Jumhur, the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Shafi'i, and the Hanabila, they said it is not recommended to sing the adhan. But if you make adhan, sing the adhan in a way that it will change the meaning of the adhan, it's haram. The other opinion said no, which is the Hanabila said. Singing the adhan by making mistakes in it intentionally, just to match the way you want to perform. So linguistically this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway, even though I'm not going to change the meaning. Al-Hanabila said it doesn't matter, change the meaning or not changing the meaning, intentionally to go against the rules of the Arabic language and the way it's supposed to do, it is haram. The Jumhur said only haram if you change the meaning. Otherwise, it's makruh. But the Hanabila said it's haram either way. طيب. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah had a mu'adhin. He used to make tatrib, sing the adhan. طيب. And Umar ibn Aziz told him, إما أن تؤذن أذانا سمحا سهلا وإلا فاعتزلنا. He said, either you call the adhan in a nice way, smooth way, good, without this singing stuff that you do, or you leave us. طيب. And Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah mentioned that story معلق في صحيح البخاري. And al-Bukhari has a chapter باب رفع الصوت بالنداء, raising the voice when you call the adhan. طيب. Anyway, I'm not gonna bother you with all the quotes from the fuqaha rahimahullah. Give you example of singing the adhan or talhin al-adhan with changing the meaning. Anybody can give me an example? Changing words in the adhan that completely change the meaning. For example, Allahu Akbar. What that means?
Is Allah greater?
Is Allah Akbar? The ba, you say bar. How that change the meaning? Akbar, jam'u kabar. Akbar is a plural of kabar. What's kabar? Drum. Like asbab, sabab, akbar, kabar. So Allah is drum. That's completely wrong. Or somebody say, La ilaha, no God. And he stopped. That's wrong. So here, these are example of mistakes in the adhan that change the meaning, and it is basically haram, absolutely. طيب. Another example of talhin that will not change the meaning. Go ahead.
Allahu Akbar,
Among the examples of making like talhin al-adhan in a way that will not change the meaning, you just want to make it sound good, like exaggerating the mad. Al-mad, it means when you stretch the word. In letters that you should not do, like for example, hayy, hayy ala salah. Hayy, you don't stretch it, it's two harakatain, mad tabi'i. But somebody said, حي على الصلاة حي, because you want to get your attention. That's not correct. حي, no, it's حي to حركة. حي على الصلاة, you see, but it's not. According to the Hanabila, they said no. The Jumhur said it is makruh. Ashhadu Allah. It doesn't change the meaning, but it's a mistake. Also, Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah. Anna, wrong. Here, tudgham. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. But if ashhadu anna, wrong. Okay. This is just an example. Illallah, what is that? Shadda ala illa. People make these, stretches and just to make it like to match these musical notes, basically. I heard once one of the Shaykh mentioned a story. He's from Egypt. He said once a tourist, she was riding a wagon, in Cairo, and the guy who was riding the wagon was taking her in Al-Hussein and in an area where all mashallah, Al-Azhar and Masjid Al-Hussein, and beautiful area. So she hears this beautiful, beautiful adhan, and she said, "What's this?" He told, "This is adhan." So he told her about this. She loved the adhan, and she said, "Take me Al-Azhar." He took her to Al-Azhar, just right there. She entered, the Shaykh gave her da'wah, she became Muslim. Just because of the beautiful voice of the adhan. The guy who basically ride the why we call them Al-Arbaji, the one who riding the wagon, taking care of it, was so happy, proud of himself. He was able to give somebody who was a reason for someone to be Muslim. So by the Asr time, they passed by a masjid, has a terrible voice, Allahu Akbar, and was terrible voice, extremely terrible. So he was saying, Shi Ahmar la takfur. He said, hurry up from here before she became kafir again. Because his voice was very bad. He was worried that she became kafir again. He said, hurry up before she became kafir again. Anyway, Allah musta'an. One of the lessons that we learn from the hadith, istithmar al-mawaqif. One of the really interesting thing about this hadith, that how Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took advantage of the situation. And I took advantage, and I mean that in a positive sense. Like, he saw this as an opportunity and he grabbed it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He heard this beautiful voice and he immediately responded. He said, "Hey, who's that person with the beautiful voice?" If you notice, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not make this, he didn't take it in a negative way. You would think they're making fun, they're mocking the adhan. He did, and listen, this is Hunayn after Hunayn, in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam dominating. Already Mecca conquered, he is the upper hand. He could have easily come and he said, "Who the one who's doing this?" And he reprimanded them and he attacked them and he punished them even. And he can come full force for it, but he didn't, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because imagine if the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam came that day and he said, "Who's the one who's shameless? Young kids, you guys shameless, have no adab, no this, no this." Because they were teenagers at that time. And he attacked them. Do you think Abu Mahdura would be a Muslim? Most likely not. But then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam brought him, he wiped over his head, and he'd make dua for him, and he even, offer him that beautiful, and he compliment him for his voice, and he touched his heart. Okay? So this is something that you should learn from this hadith, to always, when you see an opportunity, grab it, especially with people. If you want to change, they said, if you want to change objects, you touch it with your hands. That's right. If you want to change objects, you touch it with your hand. But if you want to change a person, you touch him with your heart. So make sure, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that man felt that connection, that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam comes with love, come with a message, come with caring, complimenting him. Aydan, this hadith shows us that جواز أذان من هو ليس من أهل الفضل ولا العلم. That the mu'adhin doesn't need to be righteous, doesn't need to be knowledgeable, doesn't need to be a special person or anything religious wise. Even if he's fasiq, he can make adhan. And the proof for that, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this man just became a Muslim. He has no knowledge, he has no virtue, he doesn't have anything special about him. He was just making fun of Islam. And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made him that mu'adhin. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. As long as he's Muslim and trustworthy. Okay. Also, this shows you that it is allowed to have multiple mu'adhins in one masjid. And the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had multiple mu'adhin in Mecca, has multiple mu'adhin in Medina. And one of them was Abu Mahdura. Also, this hadith shows you that we should have a mu'adhin for the masjid. And I noticed that this is one of the missing things. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made him the mu'adhin of the Masjid al-Haram. He made Bilal the mu'adhin of, and I noticed this is something very sad in the West, that there is no caring about the position of mu'adhin. There's actually no such thing in constitutions of the masajid, something called mu'adhin. Like this is, in my opinion, need to be changed and re-evaluated. Every masjid should have a mu'adhin. And that mu'adhin, remember all the virtues that we heard about the mu'adhin and calling adhan and the ahadith. What is all this? And the community never cared about it. This should be a position, and also paid position. We'll talk about this later on, about paying it or not. But it should be a position like we have an imam, we have a mu'adhin. But I guess some masajid, you have no imam, no mu'adhin. But it should be something that we care for. I love where I grew up. Every masjid will have a mu'adhin and will have an imam, and both will have equal homes next to the masjid. Yani anyone will build a masjid, or the government will build a masjid, will build identical two houses next to the masjid. One for the mu'adhin, one for the imam. And I think I saw only one example in the United States, in Detroit. But I'm not sure now whether a house for the mu'adhin or not, but it was the house for the imam as part of the project. Just to let you know, many churches, when they build a church, they will have a house for the priest next to the church. And a nice house. Not a room in a masjid and you stay there. That's half of the qari just stay in somewhere in a room in a masjid. No. Yeah. Also, this hadith teaches us another lesson, and I will open the floor for you guys too. Or if you have lessons we can learn from the hadith, please feel free to participate. But one of the things that I want to give, in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam give responsibilities, a big responsibility, calling adhan in al-haram to a new Muslim and a young man. Sometimes we don't do that. We don't have as a community, we don't have the trust, we don't have the courtesy actually to recognize that those young and new Muslims, both categories, should be trusted, and giving them responsibilities. This man just became a new Muslim, and he became the mu'adhin of the most important masjid on the face of the earth. We should give them chance to grow. But what happened when you do this with the youth, with the new Muslim? When you give them responsibilities, when you give them chance, when you show them trust, what will happen to the youth and to the new Muslims? You tell me.
They'll feel invested.
They will feel invested. Do you think they will be more committed or not? Absolutely. More committed, more connected. So that's why it's so important for us to learn from how the Prophet ﷺ used to do with the companions, the young and the new Muslims among them. Also, how as-Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the Tabi'een and the generations after generations, كانوا يعظمون أمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. They used to honor the Prophet ﷺ so much, to the extent nobody challenged Abu Mahdura for the adhan in Mecca until he died. And when he died, his son and his grandson and people follow that generation of generation out of honor for the Prophet ﷺ choice. And look at Abu Mahdura, he said, I don't want to shave a hair that the Nabi ﷺ touched. عندهم تعظيم, they have this honor for the Prophet ﷺ and respect for him, that is something inspire us. Also, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a competition between the 10 to see who's the one who have the best voice among them. So it is allowed for us to make competitions في أعمال الخير, competitions in good things. That's why we do from this hadith, it's a base for competitions in Quran and reciting Quran, competition of nasheed, competition of poetry, competition of memorizing the Quran and reciting it, calling adhan and so forth, the best adhan and so forth. Also, this hadith shows you that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught Abu Mahdura what to say. He taught Abu Mahdura how to call adhan. Okay? This hadith a proof that we, before we choose someone to call adhan, to make sure we taught them or teach that person how to call the adhan. So he will not make a mistakes, make lahan that change the meaning without realizing. We just don't ever just, hey, call the adhan. But also this is not only restricted to the adhan, this should apply to anything important, like imamah. Like somebody who said, Sheikh, can I lead the salah today? I don't know how he reads. He reads correct, not correct, sah, ghalat. Sometimes they give me a kid like he's 10 years old or 12 years old. He want to lead the salah. I don't know if he knows ahkam as-salah, sujud as-sahw, what he... And I asked when somebody come like this, said, what would happen if this happened to the salah? If he answer, I know he knows what the rules of salah is. So that's responsibility. In modern days, in management world, we call this also training for the job. Unfortunately, we don't have training for the job. What the Nabi ﷺ did with Abu Mahdura, that's what you call training. We give people responsibility. And without giving them any training. Hey, would you be the director zone for Southeast? Or basically the West or Central Zone? Okay. Do I get any training? Do I get any preparations? I became the Imam of the masjid. Do I get any training? Unfortunately not. I'm a youth director. Do I give any training? So training is something missing actually in our Islamic work and activity and da'wah. Somebody give da'wah. Did they give training? We're organizing a conference. Those people who will be behind the desk today, give them training. Somebody gonna do MC an event. Today give them training. Somebody gonna come for God's sake and speak on radio or TV, speak about all of us as Muslims. Did this person ever got trained how to deal with media? No. So here, it's so important for us to learn from this hadith about the importance of training people for the job. Like what the Nabi Sallallahu did with Abu Mahdura. Also, from this hadith, we learn that it is recommended to beautify your voice when you call adhan or when you read Quran. Okay? And that's what he did. One of the things that I will say, From this hadith, there is a very good leadership quality. Can anybody figure it out? This hadith shows a very good leadership quality.
Delegation?
Huh?
Delegating?
No, he didn't delegate. Who delegated what?
Prophet Sallallahu told him.
No, but the Nabi was not the mu'adhin to delegate the adhan to him.
Shifting negative energy to positive energy.
Shifting negative energy to positive energy. That's very good. Yeah, we said that earlier about taking advantage of opportunity. What else? Discovering talented people. One of the best quality in leaders, they know how to discover talents and talented people. He immediately recognized that this is a talented person, have an adhan, and I have a job for you. That's what leaders do. It's one of the best quality of leaders, that they know how to discover talented people and they direct them to the right. For example, this sister, she's very talented, for example, speaker. So I told her, hey, sister, I have a job for you. She is very passionate about interfaith work. He is very, good and loves law. And I direct them to study the law or to be involved or in media or whatever. So discovering talented people is absolutely essential for the growth of our community. Another one of leadership quality. It's not only good or enough to discover talents and talented people. Kind of alluded earlier, is also to utilize this. That's another big challenge. How can you utilize these talents that you have? That's a good leader. Good leader he discovered the talent. He discovered talented people. But a lot of time he doesn't know what to do with them. Sometimes somebody comes to you and says, Sheikh, our brother or sister, I am good at this. Okay, good for you. May Allah bless you. So did you really fully take advantage of it? Did you, not for yourself, did you really utilize it? Did you really invest in it? Did you really direct it to be beneficial? And this not to do, you as a father, you as a mother, you as a sister or a brother, to your own family members. See the talented people in your family members, in your circles, in your friends, and make sure that you direct them, invest in them. Make sure that they basically able to contribute. He saw this talent in Abu Mahdura and he directed it to him. And what's the talent? His voice is good. That's it. And loud and clear. Guess what? You give him a big responsibility to call that. طيب. One more fa'idah or enough?
One more.
This is from Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, not from me. Ibn Hazm said this hadith is a proof that adhan do not require wudu or tahara. Where he got it from? This was a kafir 2 minutes ago. He was not a Muslim. That means he had, janaba maybe before. He never had the intention to remove that janaba or to remove, maybe to into the bathroom. He's he doesn't have wudu. So Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, this hadith is basically shows that there is no, it's not a condition to have tahara for the adhan or for the iqamah even. But for me, iqamah, what are you going to do? Make iqamah, then you go, can I go take make wudu and come back? But you know what? If it happened, happened. But technically, no. He said it is only recommended to have tahara when you call the adhan. And we will talk. There is a whole entire discussion about this. There is a hadith will come that only tahir call the adhan. We'll talk about it inshallah when it comes. someone have something to add? Yes.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
How did the mu'adhin pick amongst themselves who's going to give fajr and who else?
That should be the responsibility of the imam or the leader. The Prophet, he's the one who appointed the mu'adhineen.
But during the specific time, okay, you make fajr, you make the whole.
Yeah, he appointed Bilal for Fajr, those for Yep. Anybody else? Go ahead. Read the next hadith. We have 10 minutes so we can.
وعن جابر بن سمرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال صليت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم العيدين غير مرة ولا مرتين بغير أذان ولا إقامة رواه مسلم ونحوه في المتفق عليه عن ابن عباس وغيره. Narrated Jabir ibn Samurah, he said, I prayed with the Prophet ﷺ the two Eids not only once but twice without an adhan or an iqamah. Reported by Muslim, a similar narration is that Bukhari and Muslim narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas and others.
This hadith, Hadith Jabir radiallahu anh, and Hadith Ibn Abbas. So we have two hadith here. Hadith Jabir, reported by Imam Muslim rahimahullah, and Abi Dawood as well, and Tirmidhi as well. As for Hadith Ibn Abbas that he mentioned in the end, and I don't know why he just didn't mention the exact hadith, but actually it is more authentic than the first one. It's in al-Bukhari or Muslim. But it has a longer version of the first one. And the story goes like this, that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu arda, the first day Ibn Zubayr became the Khalifa. And here, pay attention because that's it's not related to the adhan, but an interesting point to keep in mind. Many people use Ibn Zubayr as an example of rebel, somebody rebel against the Umayyads. Okay? And the reality is, Ibn Zubayr came in a vacuum. There were no yet Khalifa from Bani Umayyah appointed and agreed upon. And Ibn Zubayr came because before Ibn Zubayr came out, the last Umayyad's Khalifa died without mentioning who will be the Khalifa after him. He refused. He didn't say who's next. So it became a vacuum. So Ibn Zubayr jumped in and claimed the Khilafah for himself. There's no Khalifa. And guess what? In no time, Ibn Zubayr controlled Mecca, Medina, all the way to Yemen, all the way to north of Arabia, east of the peninsula of Arabia, Egypt, Iraq, Palestine completely, and even area of Damascus. So he became literally the Khalifa. So he said the first day, Buya alahu bil Khilafah, okay? And that was the day of Eid al-Fitr. The day of what? Eid al-Fitr. And guess what? When he gave the khutbah al-Eid, he called the adhan for it. So Ibn Abbas sent him a messenger, and he said to him, لم يكن يؤذن للصلاة في يوم العيد فلا تؤذن لها. We never call adhan for Eid Salah, so don't call adhan for it. إنما الخطبة بعد الصلاة. And also the khutbah comes after Salah. So that's it. Because he thought it's like Jumu'ah. He did like Jumu'ah. He said, no, don't do that. That's hadith. This is the narration in al-Bukhari or Muslim. In Muslim, there is an addition. أنه قال لم يكن يؤذن للصلاة في يوم العيد فلا تؤذن فترك ابن الزبير الأذان يومه ذلك وإنما كانت الخطبة بعد الصلاة قال فأخر ابن الزبير الخطبة. What happened is Ibn Zubayr did two things. He gave the khutbah before the salah for Eid, and he called adhan. So Ibn Abbas told him, no, al-khutbah comes after salah, and there is no adhan for it. And he said that day Ibn Zubayr stopped, which shows you that he followed the sunnah. He followed the sunnah. This is the Bukhari Muslim. Fi Sunan Abi Dawood, he said that Ibn Abbas said to him, the Prophet ﷺ prayed Eid without adhan and without iqamah. Without adhan and without iqamah. Why Ibn Hajar rahimahullah start with Hadith Jabir, not Ibn Abbas? It looks like because Jabir is very explicit that the Nabi ﷺ said that. But Ibn Abbas said, we did not used to. It's not a very explicit from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jabir said, I prayed with the Prophet sallallahu. But Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he did not explicitly in the Bukhari Muslim said the Prophet sallallahu did or used to do. Maybe that's why he brought the hadith Jabir first. غير مرة ولا مرتين. Not one time or two times. Is how we don't translate it? Huh? Yeah. Once or twice. But three times? No. Here العدد غير مقصود. Once or twice is just an expression. يعني not 3, not 30, not 300. يعني all the time. He never called adhan, he never called iqam. It doesn't mean that Ibn Abbas only prayed with him once or twice. Okay? It means he never ever, all the time, he never ever called adhan or iqama for Eid. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Like, what we learn from this hadith? The first mas'ala here, the first issue is, what's the ruling in regard to calling adhan for Eid prayer? Or any volunteer prayers, like Taraweeh, like Istisqa, prayer for rain, okay? Things of that nature, Al-Kusuf, eclipse. قال مالك رحمه الله in الموطأ. I heard not one or two from our scholars, basically many of our scholars, they used to say, there is no in Eid al-Fitr or al-Adha, adhan or iqamah. From the time of the Prophet ﷺ until our time. And this is the sunnah that nobody we know from Ahl al-Ilm disagreed upon. That's why Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah said, I don't know any difference of opinions between the jurists of the Muslims world that there is no adhan, no iqamah for Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha, or any one of the recommended prayers. Any recommended prayers. There is no adhan, no iqamah for it. He mentioned that in the Istidkar, rahimahullah. And in Nawawi, rahimahullah, said that. And many scholars said there is ijma', a consensus. Okay? But I don't believe that there is a consensus. Because this is hard to say. Ash-Shatibi, rahimahullah ta'ala, said that the first one ever started adhan and iqamah in Eid was Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, the famous Umayyad Khalifa. But it doesn't seem to be correct. It's not Hisham ibn Abdul Malik. Actually, the first one ever had adhan and iqamah in Salat al-Eid was not Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, was Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, radiyallahu anhu arda. And he's a companion. And this came in Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba that Sa'id ibn Musayyib said, أول من أذن للعيدين معاوية رضي الله عنه. The first one who called adhan for the two Eids was Muawiyah رضي الله عنه. And also, just for the record, was reported from Umar ibn Abdul Aziz that he also called adhan for the two Eids. And Ibn Zubayr, as we heard earlier. طيب, وابن زياد والحجاج. But الحجاج is not worth to be mentioned with these people. All of them call adhan for Eid. And because they were leaders, they will lead the prayer. طيب. And it seems to be the ijma' happened in the early time in the Sahaba, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. So the ijma' happened, the consensus took place before Muawiyah's time, before those scholars' time. So their disagreement, it does not really affect the consensus that was established before them. Is that understood? Like, and there is plenty of authentic narration that you heard from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu and from Jabir that the Nabi never called adhan or iqamah for any volunteer prayers. We'll stop here, but next week, inshallah, we'll talk about, but what about something that people do, not adhan, it's a very common. They call as-salatu jami'ah. Salatul Eid yarhamkumullah. Have you heard this before? Salatul Eid, may Allah have mercy upon you. Yeah? Oh, Salatul Amwat. Or Janazah, you call that. Salatul Eid athabakumullah. Qumu lit-tarawih yarhamkumullah. Stand up for tarawih. You know, any format like this, would that be allowed in the Sunnah, what's the Fuqaha rahimahullah said about that, and we will learn about this inshallah next week. And we'll go pray right now.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت